Welcome to AstroTwins Radio, your cosmic GPS for life, love, and everything written in the stars. We're Tali and Ophira Edut, the AstroTwins, here to decode the astrology of the moment and help you navigate your destiny like a pro.
Hey everyone, it is the week of April 6th through 12th. We're recording Monday morning for you because, hey, we needed peace over and Peaster weekend. Plus, here in Seattle, Tali, here, I've been on a tear, putting my garden together. And Ophi was really nice in New York, right?
Partly, yeah. New York
Okay.
is still a little, it doesn't know who it is, but who does these days? New York's having a weather identity crisis.
It's a cognitive dissonance of these beautiful days while the world is on fire. But one of the things that we have started doing is our monthly manifestation meetup. So a lot of you joined us for the Mars manifestation that we did couple weeks ago, and we picked a few things. It was kind of like a mini vision board for the month. And one of the things that I did put down was getting my garden planted. I have a backyard here in Seattle where I live, and that's kind of a rare thing. It's a real gift to have that, but I have not put any plants in. I was going through a lot of changes. So now that the space is cleared there, I can actually do some planting. And so I put that into the listening, the collective. And that's why we're doing these, because we have to keep life moving along. And when you make a pledge or you sit down and you put it into the pool of other people who are cheering you on, it accelerates it. And so this is actually getting done. I'll post some pictures on Instagram.
Like kind of making a declaration in community to really motivate you to do what you said for yourself, do those things that are good for you. I mean, luckily, nature, for those of us who have access to it, is there. And I mean, I've been noticing maybe it's just the algorithm of our Instagram feed because Tali's been gardening so much, but little planting tips that you can even do in a window box and that kind of thing, like those have been popping up. And it's mentally healthy to put your hands in some dirt, touch grass, trees, get to nature if you can, when you can. Obviously, that might seem like it's easy for it to sound like denial. I mean, or just how can you do that when so many people are living in devastation? But that's the whole point of it. Remembering, contacting nature reminds us of our oneness with each other and the planet. And yeah, last week we did refashion Passover into Peaceover. I like Peaster. That also works well.
I know, it's like that was right there.
That was right there. Well, I didn't even notice it.
Speaking of, life on this planet, did you guys hear Victor Glover III, who's the pilot on Artemis II? So Artemis II, last week we mentioned on the podcast, a lunar mission of 4 astronauts who are circling the moon. The pilot, Victor Glover III, is the first Black person to go to space. And there's also a female astronaut, Christina Koch, Astro Christina. So, and then there's a couple of white men too in there. They're all together. I mean, it's just significant that there is a Black pilot, although he's made some great messages about, I can't wait till the day comes that, like, I'm just a pilot. That's what I am. And even though I know it's significant, but he has been like really making some really touching speeches from Artemis II about like Earth is a spaceship down there, and we have this beautiful oasis. And I actually reposted it, his Easter message.
Yeah,
It's on
those
our
photos that
Instagram.
they're getting are so amazing. Did you get his sign?
Oh, well, he's a Taurus stellium,
Oh,
actually. Taurus sun, moon, rising, Jupiter,
really?
and South Node.
Oh my God.
And which I think is,
How
Uranus is ending its
perfect.
7-year tour of Taurus. The Tauruses have kind of been like astronauts in outer space for the last 7 years,
Right.
like just
Uranus
really.
rules space travel. So, but also like Taurus is this terrestrial sign. So, who better to get the most stunning photography? I think Tauruses are great photographers, even though that's not necessarily him, but or maybe it is. But
Well, he made a very grounded statement from outer space, which is very Taurus. And today, Monday, April 6th, they're actually making a record flight to the dark side of the moon, the first human piloted craft to actually. So they actually will be
oh, yeah.
flying, if they haven't already, farther in space than any humans ever have. So this is a really historic mission. And I just feel like the perspective down here on this planet, with Trump and the other autocrats just starting wars everywhere and profiteering from them, making everyone feel hopeless, talking about, oh, we can't afford daycare. We can't afford Medicaid, but I'm going to build a library and a ballroom and want trillions of dollars for war. And then here's Victor Glover III saying, giving us that perspective of we're all one. I mean, there they are floating up in outer space, looking down at planet Earth and just really
That
giving us that, like,
perspective. Yeah.
wow, we're just this, like, I mean, he said Earth is like a spaceship, this oasis floating out there too. That's what you look like to us. And yeah, that just makes my.
Imagine, I mean, that says it all. Like that perspective flip is something that so many people on the planet need. It's beautiful. It's so funny because I think Sam Altman of OpenAI is also a triple Taurus. So
He's
they're
getting, his
yeah.
sister is now saying that he's essayed her when they were kids.
I
And
mean,
yeah,
he's I mean, they couldn't be more polar opposite on this, like the shadow side of Taurus being overly materialistic, and then the
Victor Glover
exalted, yeah, Victor Glover
is
representing
born
to.
April 30th, and Sam Altman shares Hitler's birthday.
Oh wow. Well, say no more on that, but it's an example of how every zodiac sign has a spectrum of expressions. We love Stephen Forrest's evolutionary astrology philosophy, which is that every zodiac sign, every planet, every astrological moment has free will comes in. It can be expressed at a lower vibration or higher vibration. And that's where we humans and our consciousness can choose. So it's very interesting to see Sam Altman seeming to choose to be on the side of destruction of the planet, a triple Taurus, and then Victor Glover, a triple Taurus, taking us
Quintuple Taurus, really.
quintuple, and I think Sam Altman is too, but and I think he's a Taurus North node actually. So
They have opposite nodes. Yeah.
possibly, yeah.
Victor Glover's 1976. So
Oh
he has a
wow.
Taurus South Node, Scorpio North.
Okay, well,
So
so
coming
yeah,
from that Scorpio South Node, not that everyone with the Scorpio South Node is here to destroy, but it's just like,
yeah. But I
I
think
mean, we're
that
seeing
really,
those
yeah,
extremes show up, like somebody who has a reverence for Earth and someone who doesn't care if Earth collapses. And as a lot of these AI technocrats, just their sci-fi. I mean, that's why I think the aliens are already here. It's like
yeah.
walking among us, because this is just like does not compute from a heart-centered humanitarian perspective. So what's happening this week? We have one big shift with Mars, the planet of war, entering Aries, and we're going to talk more about that because it's something we have to look out for. And then a quarter moon in Capricorn, which will lead us to some prophecy talk about the economy that and some astrological cycles that Ophi really got into the weeds with in our 2026 book. So if you have the big book, it starts on page 603. But we're gonna take you through that a bit. Also, we said we're gonna start talking a little bit about the human design gates that the sun is moving through. So in human design, briefly, and we're later this year, we're going to have our human design for astrologers course ready. But human design basically maps astrology onto the body. And the rave mandala, it's called, wraps. So when you look at the astrological chart, it looks like a pizza with the signs divided into 12. Well, imagine, as Ophi has called it, a double crust pizza with the 64 I Ching gates wrapped around again. So the sun is journeying, through that wheel. The sun will pass through 5 different human design gates. So we just finished 6 days of the gate of the huntress. So a lot of and there was a lot of hunting going on, even just like, where is that pilot that was downed from the US aircraft? So now we're in gate 51. The sun is moving through gate 51, the gate of shock, for I think another 5 days.
Yep. So what's interesting is that both of those, so what Tali described is the zodiac signs and the planets moving through them. So the signs match up with a gate for about 5 days every month. And that gate is mapped onto the body in a different chakra. So both the huntress and shock are in the heart chakra, the ego or will. It's called the center. So that means that collectively, that's what's being heated up by the sun. So last week was about the huntress, which is about control and precision, and kind of like taking that will and using it to hunt for what you want. So now we're in the gate of shock. So that's what's being illuminated by the sun. It really opened with, for example, Donald Trump dropped an F-bomb message on Twitter on Easter Sunday about Iran. And there was even speculation that he was in the hospital too, as the gates were shifting.
The heart chakra, like there's speculation that he's having cardiovascular problems.
Yeah. But he did shock people with that. And I think that as we're recording this, birthright citizenship is going to be decided, the next phase of it, by the Supreme Court. So we're hoping not to have some shock around that. But
hopefully the shock will be to Trump being shut down, because I don't think his arguments, but you never know with the Supreme Court.
The gate of shock is also an awakening, so it's supposed to be a wake-up call, and hopefully it is a wake-up call. And speaking of wake-up calls, last week we saw Pam Bondi being fired. We saw Kristi Noem's husband and his bimbofication fetish being exposed.
And that was crazy. Brian,
Sagittarius.
Noem. He's a Sag too.
He's a Sag. She is, and he is.
And again, we're 18th. Not. No one wants to kink shame anyone, but it's just the hypocrisy of it all. If you didn't hear the story, Kristi Noem, who was the DHS, head of DHS, Ice Barbie, who lost her job and was having an affair. It's well known, with Corey Lewandowski, her right-hand man, and
Virgo.
but pretending to be this virtuous Christian and tearing people's families apart, has now asked for prayers and respect for her family after her husband. He was busted, pun intended, by an OnlyFans worker. So he's been dressing up in like probably Christy Gnomes, Lululemons, putting like water balloons or a rack on of boobs and butt and just posing. And there's this bimbofication fetish where you dress up like a sex doll. So he's into that. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court overturns Colorado's ban on conversion therapy and continues to go against the LGBTQ community. But right here, front and center in MAGA, there's closeted humanity that is being condemned and coming out sideways. It's just more of the insane hypocrisy. Mars and Pisces has been really interesting. Before it goes into Aries on the 9th, it's been in Pisces for about 6 weeks. And Pisces is a sign of illusion and confusion. I mean, even Scorpio Pam Bondi getting fired, gotta love her being taken down. And it happened right at the Libra full moon, which was both of these things happened during the Libra full moon, which is justice. It was squaring Cancer, the sign that rules
Jupiter in Cancer.
Yeah, Jupiter in
is
Cancer.
a truth-telling exposer in Cancer, which is a sign of women, femininity in the stereotypical sense. So it's sort of interesting that Libra and Cancer are both feminine, aesthetic kind of signs.
But unfortunately, this also means that Pam Bondi, I don't think, has to testify about the Epstein files on April 14th. And then her temporary replacement, I think Todd Blanche is his name, is the guy who like redacted the hell out of the Epstein file. So it's not like it's getting better at all. But they
probably colluded on that too. It's like,
but a woman who, I mean, the reputational damage. I mean, just like there's nothing worse than a woman who betrays and aligns and supports this horrible misogynistic pedophile. So I'm not sad to see her go, but I'm not happy to see. It's not like progress is happening. What about
in my fantasies? Her Scorpio side will emerge and she'll seek revenge, but it's not going to happen.
She'll get her new position like Christy Gnome, but whatever.
Shuffled to the back office job. But
I heard Tulsi Gabbard and Aries is on the chopping block. Of course, all the women. You can only get rid of the women because what were you thinking aligning yourself with this? I don't know what wounds you have from daddy or who made you hate yourself. Oh, society. But when you're ready, come on over. We'll work with you begrudgingly, but we will. Also, another thing about Mars, the planet of war, finishing out this tour in Pisces, which is about illusions and imagination, is like the weirdest damn thing that I think is happening are these Lego AI trolls that Iran is putting out. This is the new level of AI war. If you haven't seen them, so Iran created the ultimate diss tracks, an AI hip hop voice of like Pete Hegseth, like calling him out like for his hypocrisy of having like multiple baby mamas, but trying to pretend to be the super Christian, and like Trump and the Epstein files. They did this one. I mean, it's like, I don't even know what to think, because they did one about like shooting down the US fighter jet and how much the US spent 130 million and like are not taking care of our own people. I mean, they're just like the zingers of truth hit hard. And but it's like this coming from a regime that oppresses the women there, and it's just like but it's like brain explosion. Like, I don't know what to do because, oh my God, I'm sitting here going like, damn, sick burn. And just like knowing that it is hitting so hard and out of control for Pete Hegseth and Trump. Like, it feels good, but also like, what are we doing here? What the hell are we doing here?
And I do think that that's actually the crossroads of humanity that we're at now. I mean, we're now in Q2, if you want to go on that calendar. Q1 was full of all the Pisces to Aries transition, from the outer planets of Saturn and Neptune to just a bunch of planets going back and forth between the two. And we had the year of the fire horse start, the year of the snake until February 17th. You know, all the shedding that people did. Whoa, that was intense for many, many people. Now we're in Q2, now in Aries mode, you know, locked in. Neptune till 2039, Saturn till 2028. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac, Aries is the first. So we're in this like forward motion, no more passive aggressive. It's just full on direct confrontation with Aries energy.
And next week is insane.
Next week, yeah, next couple weeks, it's just like
I just feel like we have to
full
make it to
frontal
that
Aries.
Scorpio full moon on May 2nd. I'm hoping and thinking might be a transition point, even though
And
we've
also
got
Uranus, you know,
in
this is
Gemini,
Uranus is in
April
its
25th.
last couple weeks in Taurus, and it won't be back for more than 80 years after that. We're moving in a whole new direction still. We're going to talk about some of that too, but Q2, it is starting out with a lot of Aries energy, aggression, boldness, courage. You know, again, back to that evolutionary astrology idea. Aries in its highest vibration is trailblazing, courageous, like not afraid to say the thing that no one else dares to. And its lowest expression, it's, you know, it's the diss tracks, it's war, it's conflict, it's aggression, it's violence. So this is the spectrum that we're on right now. So yeah, and we do want to invite you to go to astrostyle.com/events, because this week, April 6th through 10th, we have a free pass for you for the Manifesting Peace Summit, which I am one of the speakers on. Neil Donald Walsh, who wrote Conversations with God, is out today. There's a couple being released every day.
The Gay Hendricks of the Big Leap.
Yeah.
Love him.
A lot of amazing speakers. Netta, who was on our podcast, our special episode, she's one of the speakers as well. We have to balance it out with inspiration, proactive ideas, and that's what this summit is all about. So go to astrostyle.com/events, and we'll drop it in the show notes too to get your free pass this week.
We have our next live meetup on April 21st, Manifesting with Venus. Taurus season is kicking in on the 19th. So we're going to start every season. So we're calling Taurus season Venus season, because Venus is the ruler of Taurus. So that's also on astrostyle.com/events.
We're going to pick 3 main traits of the month ahead. We're going to collectively set 3 guided intentions, and then you'll watch them manifest in your life like we've been.
I've really been like motivated to do all 3 of mine. Like we said,
me too.
One of the ones really I said was the weird. Yeah, this was wild. What first one was like, I am going to post more videos on Instagram and experiment with a new format. And so I was like, I can do this now. And I reposted this amazing podcast episode that these guys did about Barron Trump, the Barron Trump books, and Ingersoll Lockwood, this insane, like, is Trump a time traveler? I just checked it yesterday. It has had 588,000 shares.
Whoa.
And our Instagram went up like 7,000 followers since. So thanks, manifestation crew out there, and I've been like
Wow.
never have. I mean, we have a good following, but we've never had anything like that. So
That is the power of coming together. And that's why we're doing these summits and these events. There are a couple others already. It's turned into summit month. We have a women's business and technology summit, April 17th through 19th on there, break the pattern, and Summit at Sea, which is a cruise for thought leaders, creators, founders, entrepreneurs, and people who want to have a different vision of the world, leaving from Miami April 23rd, which I'm
you're
going to be
going on
speaking
that.
on. What I love about a summit is it's about community coming together, diverse ideas, giving people hope, giving people new possibilities. Back to Venus and Mars. So from April 9th to May 18th, both of these planets are going to be in their home signs. So Mars is going to be in Aries from April 9th to May 18th, which is like a double strength prescription for either courage or conflict, because Aries rules both of those things, and so does Mars. But luckily, we have something offsetting that. Venus, which is a planet of peace and harmony and love, is in one of its two home signs, Taurus, March 30th to May 18th. So they'll both be in their home signs doing double strength. So Venus and Taurus will do double duty as well. So I'm hoping, because I'm going to be a Sag optimist here, that offsets the Mars and Aries conflict in some ways. So, but it's up to us to tap into that, of course, at any time. And we do have a balancing quarter moon this Friday in Capricorn, which is a sign of maturity, adulthood. It also rules governments and structures. We may see, some Supreme Court setting boundaries. I hope that would be a good thing. We shall see. Again, that's an optimistic outlook. Capricorn can also be military. So, there's a lot of talks about ground troops being sent.
The boots on the ground. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was listening to the Diary of a CEO podcast, which was, I always just looked at that guy and I was like, oh God, another podcasting bro. But actually, he's had some really good guests on.
Yeah, he could be sometimes he'll like make some, like, I think he made some stupid comment about women recently, but he
had a woman on who did a great book about AI that just came out. And then he had someone on today, this week, talking about Iran, and he was an economist, but he was talking about how Iran has all of these mountain ranges in it, so it'd be really hard. He's like, be extremely hard for ground troops that have to enter through Pakistan. I don't know. It's just more bad ideas on top of bad ideas. So I hope that the Capricorn, because Capricorn does rule mountains, but I hope that the quarter moon puts some Capricorn sense into people. On a personal note, with all this Aries energy, though, it really is a good time to get some new initiatives going in your life. So outside of whatever, clownery is happening in the wider world, in your own life, we're here. We don't know what's going to happen. Apocalypse or not, you're here now. You're here today. So what can you do? It's a great time to start something. You'll feel probably a surge of motivation when Mars goes into Aries this Thursday. So it is a great week to kind of focus in on a solo or personal project, and something that requires a little extra boldness for you to get off the ground. The new moon on April 17th in Aries is going to help with that, but start to lay the groundwork for that. Start to really, put yourself out there, tell people what you're up to. And that Capricorn quarter moon on Friday is a great time to sort of start making a plan. Like, you may have these big, bold ideas brewing, but how will you do them step by step? So really do you need mentors? Capricorn rules mentors and experts. So where might you only have like the spark of inspiration and drive and passion, but maybe not enough resources? Maybe you need a person with a certain amount of experience to help guide you. So start to reach out for support or sit down and craft kind of like a week by week or step by step plan. We're always big fans of what we call micro dosing in our programs. We do our astropreneurs and other coaching programs. So taking one step at a time, getting the result, it picks up the momentum as soon as you have a win. And that's definitely a great reason to attend your next win
Definitely.
summit, April 17th to 19th, that we're part of. We have a lot of people from our community who have signed up already. Great ideas for avenues that you might not even be aware of. There's an app build-a-thon. I'm participating in it. Yeah, it's just time to just take power into our own hands.
Well, on the prophecy end of things, this Capricorn quarter moon brings us to page 603 in our 2026 horoscope guide, which is we wrote about the financial cycles and astrology, how the lunar nodes could shape the economy in 2026. So there's a lot of stress right now in the world about oil prices going up per barrel, and now gas. I paid $6.43 at the pump. Wow. I mean, I don't drive all that much, and I was like, oh my God, that was a lot. Grocery prices, all of these promises,
the fertilizer that can't get through the Strait of Hormuz. Yeah, I mean,
so many things that are blocked now. We're starting to feel it, and that's been like since these stupid tariffs. Like there are cycles in astrology, that we tracked about the lunar nodes and their transits through the signs of Leo and Aquarius, and how that has shaped the economy for over 100 years. So just a little quick explanation about the lunar nodes. These are 2 points in the sky where the eclipses are happening. These are in opposite signs. There's a descending or south node and ascending or north node. In Vedic astrology, they're called Rahu and Ketu, the head and tail of the dragon. But those are in different places because they're based on the constellations. A story for another time. So for 18 to 20 months, the nodes will settle in these opposite signs and bring about this karmic evolution, deep lessons, shadow work for collective humanity. And actually, where they were in your birth chart says a lot about your own karmic journey. I feel like you could look at
our site and look yours up. If you go to
let's put that node
at the top, I think we have calculators. Our cosmic
I'll put that
calculators.
In the show notes too. Well, ours are, for example, we have a Cancer South node. That's like where you're kind of coming from, and a Capricorn North node. So a lot of our life has been centered around sisterhood, all the women, and we had no brothers, no boy has been born in our family in like a few generations. Like we're in Girl Scouts. We do a lot of work for empowering women. We had a intersectional feminist magazine called Hues. We're very like, proud, female empowerment, but empowerment for all. But our North Node is in Capricorn, which is about business and learn, we work with a lot of great men too. And just give you an example. So,
And the
anyways, when the
Capricorn
nodes,
North Node, like we've had businesses since we
yeah, it's
were
our stretch kind
kids,
of. Yeah.
and it's the creativity. A lot
Yeah,
of
you
our
get
businesses have
pulled into
centered
that.
around women's issues. We worked for Ms. Magazine, Gloria Steinem, and you met Hillary Clinton in the 90s speaking at the
That's right, I
Beijing
did.
conference.
And Madeline Albright too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something in DC for that.
that's
So
right.
we've
I
always been
forgot about
about
that.
like women's creating systems for women and underrepresented communities and creative people
And
to.
home is really important to us, but also it's really good for us to. So the North Node is kind of the new language you're learning, where the South Node is a comfort zone. And the world goes through these cycles. Right now, we're in a Virgo South Node, Pisces North Node. So,
And they last about a year and a half. So the South Node went into Virgo January 11th, 2025, and it's leaving at the end of July.
look at
And
what's happening, like with all these Virgo social services under attack, like
Maha
Maha, like Virgo and Pisces are like
farms.
health and healing land. Yeah, like a lot of Virgos that I know also are going through a lot of like inner growth, but also having to do a lot of shadow work. Yes, the spirit of service. And then Pisces, we have these illusions, AI, like, things are just going through this sort of like people are having spiritual awakenings, but from a place of crisis. Okay, so from July 26th, 2026 to March 26th, 2028. So about 20 months, the nodes will be in Aquarius and Leo. And long story short, when the nodes are in Leo or in Aquarius, whether north or south, there's, a whole cycle that you've tracked, Ophi. So the prophecy came from Louise McWhirter, right?
Yeah, so I started looking into the esoteric history of Wall Street. I got invited to the New York Stock Exchange last March for Women's History Month event by our friend Mimi. And I was like, I wonder if this place is haunted. And then I went down a rabbit hole and discovered a book from the 1930s called The Astrology of Stock Market Forecasting by Louise McWhirter, possibly a pen name of a Gemini financial analyst male, because astrology was illegal then. So you could actually be jailed and fined for practicing it. So it's possible. Some have speculated, but the name Louise McWhirter is on the book. And the cycle that was tracked was that every time the North Node is in Leo, it's the top of the financial cycle. There's sort of like a Leo rules gold. So we get this gold rush mentality. We get this boom, all this speculation and expansion and optimism. And like, it's when people like, really pour all this money into things without thinking. And then at 9.5 years later, when the North Node hits Aquarius, it's at the bottom of the cycle. And that is often when there is a crash or a correction. So I decided to see what happened if I trace that all the way through the 20th century till now, just to see what happened at those periods. And indeed, it really did track. Along the way, I also found another book called Cycles by Edward R. Dewey. He was the chief economic analyst under Herbert Hoover. And in 1931, he was tasked with trying to figure out what had caused the Great Depression. Was there something that led to it? And he did a lot of research, and his only conclusion from everybody that he heard was they don't know. They had no idea. So he went on his own research bender and discovered that all of these things, from animal and biological cycles to markets to like almost every sector and industry followed a 9.2 year cycle. And that happens to be the same amount of time that it takes the North Node to go from Leo to Aquarius, or from one sign to its opposite sign. So now he didn't parallel those things, but I happened to find his cycles book, which I think has been reprinted like 7 times. And so it's used a lot, but the McWhirter cycle and the Dewey cycle paralleled all this research and forecasting with astrology and economics. So it's an interesting forecasting model. Some of the things that have happened.
Yeah, page 616 of the book is a really great table. So the way this kind of is shown to work astrologically is when the North Node is in Leo, it's like the top of the market, and when it's in Aquarius, we're like at the bottom. And unfortunately, we're heading towards that North Node in Aquarius on July 26th. But it's almost like that's when it starts to correct, right? So we're actually kind of heading to the bottom now, which makes sense.
And it's a result of that over speculation. And interestingly, the United States has a Leo North Node. The country was founded with a Leo North Node in its chart, which explains this American overspending, debt, over optimism, this like gold, search for gold at all times. So we can even go through this. So, let's look at
began all the way back in 1905 to 1907 with the North.
I trace it to the first one. I mean, you could go back centuries prior and probably see the same thing. But for the book, you can. I have it all mapped out. But for the book, 1905 to 07 was the North Node in Leo. That's the up cycle. And that was when there was a stock market high, then a 3-week plunge in the 1907 panic. So it's not like there weren't panics during these times. It was high Leo drama. And this is before. So what would happen is the banks were not insured by anything during the earlier part of the 20th century. So there would be what would be called bank runs. People would panic, pull all their money out of the bank, and it would crash the market because there was nothing to guarantee or insure all the deposits that had been removed. So the banks would literally run out of money. And JP Morgan personally bailed out banks. So then, the next decade, we had the Aquarius North Node correction from 1914 to 16. This was right before World War I, but it was the first years of the Federal Reserve. So the official central bank of the United States was formally established December 1913 on Jekyll Island. There was a meeting of like 6 people. And then right after that was the Aquarius North Node. So this was a correction put in to help offset and mitigate bank failures.
And then 1924 to 25 back in Leo,
Roaring
basically
20s.
10 years. Yeah.
And this is when we had the birth of the consumer credit agents.
The stock market was kind of booming, right? And everyone was like trying to buy, like they wanted to.
Well, there was automobiles. There were people were becoming urbanized more and more. They were moving to cities to work in factories, and there were modern appliances, washing machines that gave way to modern life and leisure, because I think women used to spend up to 20 hours a week on laundry prior to the washing machine. It's like when I was working at Ms. Magazine in the late 90s, I had a column called Just the Facts. So I'd have to find interesting facts. And one was that the washing machine is credited with sort of the birth of women's liberation in that flapper era, because they were freed from having to do all these household chores. So, but those things were expensive. So cars were first installment layaway payments. Margin loans were first introduced. So people started to borrow money and they would get cars or appliances for like a very low down payment, but then the bank panics and everything would cause crashes. People weren't paying their loans, so it was just a disaster.
Sounds like what's happening today, but
exactly.
Yeah.
But it really was the birth of our consumer culture in the way that we see it now, where it's like this dopamine fueled, gotta have it, kind of materialistic things. So,
And
there was
10
a lot of
years later, we go to Aquarius North Node, and boom, we have the Great Depression.
Yeah,
So
1933 to 35. The corrections that were put in by FDR, the Banking Act of 1933, and we had the establishment of the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. So it's an independent U.S. government agency that insured bank deposits in a way that was meant to prevent another depression. And the Glass-Steagall Act, which was meant to create a partition between commercial and investment banking, because the investment bankers were making all the really speculative, risky moves, and that was affecting individuals and personal accounts as well. So it created a separation and some formal regulations between.
So they were able during that 1933 to 35 Aquarius North Node to prevent another Great Depression from coming. Well, hopefully,
it was the climbing out of it and like putting regulations in place. So we see Aquarius,
all these regulations, interestingly, that Trump is trying to roll back.
Yeah, well, Aquarius rules, the organizational culture. It can become bureaucratic in ways. Like Leo is self-focused, kind of selfish, greedy, and it's low vibration, and Aquarius energy it can be bureaucratic and institutional and kind of big government agencies, but it's also meant to protect the people.
It makes me wonder if this upcoming phase will bring universal basic income, or at least temporarily. While, I just heard that, Oracle laid off 30,000 employees. I don't know if that happened a little while ago, but, of course, they're opening up all these data centers. Now there's people without jobs. They're killing the environment.
Aquarius rules technology. So this is a very AI-driven one that's starting July 26th for sure.
42 to 44.
Yeah, 1942 to 44, another Leo North Node high time. That was like when, Rosie the Riveter, the wartime production boom, the baby boom. We had the Bretton Woods Agreement, which was the creation of a global central bank, the World Bank and the IMF, the International Monetary Fund.
Interesting. That was World War II, though.
It was World War II, but we had that was a prosperous time. So
war is profitable.
And what's especially important about this particular window is it was when Uranus was last in Gemini. So on April 25th of this year, Uranus returns to Gemini, and we're going to have an Aquarius North Node at the same time.
Well, we are, this time, though, World War III, which arguably we are in, we have a Leo South Node. World War II was a Leo North Node. So these attempts to profit off of war are seemingly backfiring, although we know that Don Jr. and Eric have invested heavily in drones.
So this is the 1940s, but with the nodes flipped and Uranus and Gemini again. So, but we had like the GI Bill, for example, came out at that time. And one of the biggest things was that the US dollar became the standard international currency, and it was backed by gold. When the dollar in the US market, crashed, it affected markets all over the world. Each dollar got a gold value. Banks could put gold in their reserves and that would be assigned a dollar value that would be sort of the international standard. This is why people are interested in stable coins and cryptocurrency as a sort of a universal, because countries' currencies can be so volatile sometimes. It's instead of relying on gold as the hard asset, they're looking at crypto and that kind of thing. So it's
Stable coin is like, this is basically a universal coin that everyone can use in whether you're
it's pegged
Argentina
to a
or
currency
Tanzania,
amount.
that like it's worth what it's worth no matter where you are in the world.
Because somebody could be in a developing nation and all of a sudden their economies go like wild yo-yos, so they could have a lot of
they could
money
be in the United
and
States
it could
too.
crash. Well, that's the thing. Well, see, we don't have the gold standard anymore because of another of those cycles. So the Aquarius North Node of 1952 to 53 was the Korean War, recession, post-war slowdown. And then the 1960s, 61, 62, we had Leo, the space race optimism. We had another surge. But the 1970 to 72 Aquarius North Node, that was a big one. That links. So the Leo North Node Bretton Woods gold standard happened in 1942 to 44's period. But then 1970 to 72 was when Nixon ended the gold standard. He ended Bretton Woods and disconnected the US dollar valuation from gold. They called it Nixon shock. And it totally reshaped global finance. So that is a pivotal moment that happened with the North Node in Aquarius, which is the cycle we're going to, where currency values and backing suddenly changed after how it had been for 30 years after the World War II Great Depression correction. So what happened was that by the late 1960s, the US had printed more dollars and it had gold to back, partly to fund the Vietnam War and some of the social programs at home. So the Fed's reserves of gold were starting to dwindle, and other countries started to lose faith in the dollar's promise to be this global stabilizing currency. So Nixon ended Bretton Woods, and then money became totally what's called fiat currency, meaning it's not backed by anything except for the public's trust. So that's what we've been riding on
since the year we were born, 1972. Yep.
Yeah. So the dollar was no longer insured by a tangible item like gold. The Dow Jones initially shot up. It got Nixon reelected. Sounds like another person who is trying to game the system constantly like that. But then
the Dow is over 50,000. I'm thinking about Pam Bondi.
Oh my God, exactly. But what happened, one of the biggest things was interest rates, which had been determined by the current market value of gold, changed from like a fixed kind of set in stone by the price of gold rate, to flexible. And they were determined by fluctuating market forces. And that's what we're dealing with. So, and then 1980 to 81, we had another Leo North Node, which was when the first personal computers entered the market. But we had something called stagflation then, which is the simultaneous high inflation and high unemployment rates. So that wasn't the shiniest Leo North Node time, but it was actually a time when the 24-hour news cycle started. So all the kind of Leo drama around like the big news networks and Ronald Reagan and everything came out of that. So then 1989 to 90, we had another correction with the Aquarius North Node. And it was the late 80s savings and loans crisis. So
I
another
remember hearing
crisis.
about the sea. I never knew.
I
I was
know,
like, right.
89 to 90. Yeah, it was like our
Oh, yeah.
last.
No excuse, but wasn't watching the news then. Yeah.
Yeah. It was no, yeah, we were too busy like going to prom and stuff. But yeah, it obviously, I remember it being on the news for sure. Now, another big one happened 1998 to 2000, the upcycle speculative Leo North Node. That was the dot-com boom, which we're seeing echoes of with all this AI mania going on now. So it was the dot-com mania. But one of the biggest things that happened was Bill Clinton, who's a Leo, and interestingly, FDR is an Aquarius. So he was the president. He was actually a president for an Aquarius and a Leo North Node.
Because he did
because
terms,
it's
right?
4 terms, but he's an Aquarius and he was with the corrective Aquarius North Node. Bill Clinton, a Leo, repealed that some of the Glass-Steagall Act. That was
And the North Node was in Leo.
The North Node was in Leo, the gambling
in 1998
gold rush.
to 2000.
Yep, the dot-com gold rush.
People were everyone was giving people millions of dollars, and they were doing IPOs and
yeah. But what he did was he repealed the key 1933 Banking Act regulations that prevented the blurred lines between the commercial and investment banking and personal banking. So
ones that FDR put in place. FDR and Aquarius put that in place when the North Node was in Aquarius.
Yeah.
And Bill Clinton, the Leo, took it away.
Yep.
When there was a Leo North Node from 1998 to 2000.
And that set the stage for Lehman Brothers. These investment banking hedge fund quants like to work with derivatives and equations and play with the numbers. So because of the repeal of that, they set up the whole subprime mortgage that led to the crash of the housing market. What do you know? The next time the North Node was in corrective Aquarius, 2007 to 9, we had the Great Recession, the global financial crisis, and the U.S. housing market crash, all as a result of what happened during that decade prior Leo North Node repeal of the regulations. So we can see this pattern forming during the Leo North Nodes. People just
9 to 10 years apart. They're all 9 to 10. So every
a decade
18
later,
to 20 years. Yeah, the nodal cycles repeat the same every 20 years, every 18 to 20 years. They'll be in the same places. But in between, they're like flipped. So it's like once a decade, they'll be in Aquarius and Leo, but flipped each decade. So the South Node will be in Aquarius, North Node in Leo, one decade, then 10 years later, South Node in Leo, North Node in Aquarius.
But an innovation will often come out of an Aquarius North Node correction cycle. So Bitcoin was actually
2007 to 9.
Yeah. Bitcoin was birthed in 2009, the beginning of the year. So that was something that arose out of this corrective cycle, because Aquarius is innovation. So it's like revolutionary. So, maybe, money needs to be revolutionized. First in the 70s, it was, unpegged from the gold standard by Nixon. Then in this cycle of 07 to 09 with Obama also bailing out the banks, the big 3 automakers too. And Obama has an Aquarius South Node in his chart too, but he's a Leo. So interestingly, he has a lot of Aquarius and Leo in his chart. So so the birth of Bitcoin, and then a decade later, we're at the Leo speculation 2017 to 18. That was the first cryptocurrency bubble when Bitcoin reached an all-time high and then crashed. So this thing that was born out of an Aquarius North Node correction cycle 10 years later ends up boom and bust, just like the stock market and the consumer credit and all these things that get created. So, can we ever find that balance? Well, here we now find ourselves at the precipice of another corrective Aquarius North Node cycle, July 26, 2026 to March 26, 2028. We're at the AI gold rush kind of tipping point. We've been leading up to it, but we're seeing holes in it. We're seeing problems. I mean, Salesforce and Oracle, and a lot of it is not. I think Disney and Sora, they ended that project. We're seeing all the holes there. Crypto. Who knows what's going to happen? All this surveillance and big data. The robots. Melania Trump suggesting that robots replace teachers. It's just,
well, there's an economic crisis happening as jobs are being replaced, but like, okay, where are your consumers going to come from then? Is there going to be a universal basic income? What does that mean? Are people going to be beholden to some feudalistic society where Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos become like the feudal overlords, and we live on their fiefs, on their dole? Larry Ellison.
And is there a possibility of like, there's one thing that's popping up, like, is like intentional co-living communities being built. I keep hearing about more and more, which is also very Aquarius, kind of the commune model of people living together to spread out the cost of living as well. So yeah, there's the problematic possibilities like what you're saying that are dystopian.
Well, yeah.
And then there's also what might be innovated and created out of that. So that's what we're heading into at the end of July. April, May, June is Q2. So, we're moving into Uranus and Gemini on April 25th until 2033. Gemini is very communal, collective, sharing, neighborhoods, new ways of doing things together, putting our skills together with complementary people. So I see it already kind of forming in the good and the bad ways. But
1933 to 1935, during the Great Depression, Aquarius North Node, a lot of social programs got put into place that were around for a while that help people get back on their feet. And, there's going to have to be those, even though Trump was caught on camera saying like, we can't handle childcare. The federal government is too, it's just too big. We can't be, states have to be responsible for childcare and they have to raise their taxes. It's like, meanwhile, Mom Donnie and Kathy Hochul in New York are having like some phenomenal child care program and initiatives just starting, but it's better than what's going on. And so, elsewhere. So it's like the idea that we can't do that we can't take care of each other, that 5 people should have all the wealth and everyone else should have just enough, and go paint and sip and pursue your spiritual aims. We'll handle everything, kids. You just go play as if human beings just want to be living under someone's thumb and not.
I mean, I have hope that the Aquarius North Node will further the age of Aquarius vibes that we're moving into. And, people are just gonna come together more. I mean, that is what happens. And it's the opposite of the Leo is a sign of the king, and it truly is going to be a no king's march through the ecliptic with the North Node in Aquarius. Like, this is definitely not going to be king's era. So I think we're going to see people coming together and rising
Yeah.
up more, which, again, I'm feeling optimistic with all these Aries planets as a Sag, but I, it's not the first time it's happened. I mean, I've been, the more you read about all these nations that we've taken for granted, including this one, our whole lives, you can see that like there's never not been some kind of revolution going on. And maybe that's what this weird human experiment that we're all part of is like. I don't know, but I mean, with that, enjoy the last few days of Mars and Pisces, I guess.
I know.
In fantasy land, take some rest.
I hope Mars and Aries actually brings like just
mobilizing people.
Mobilizing and like invoking the 25th and getting him out of there, or just like, not the worst case scenario of somebody threatening to drop a nuke or even using one. It's just like, we're in a tough cycle here, but we're just watching.
We're not going to be doomsday
day.
today because there's enough of that out there. There's enough pundits telling you all the worst case scenarios. I think we're all pretty aware of them, but you know what? Like, astrology is also about the human spirit, and it's remembering the butterfly effect. Butterfly that flaps its wings on one side of the planet can affect the weather on the other side a couple weeks later. So keep flapping. Head to astrostyle.com/events for all of our free summits this month. And we have opened up our books for spring astrology chart readings. If you're feeling unsure of where to point your compass right now with all the uncertainty in the world, get some focus, get some direction, and, just look at what you can do with your life, your talents, your vitality, everything that you've got. So astrostyle.com/readings to find out about how to book a chart reading and find out what's ahead, chart a course for yourself, and come talk to one of us. We do them. It's a conversation with me or Tali. It's on Zoom, recorded, and it'll set you up for years to come. So yes. I think that's all I've got for this week, but
buckle up, and we'll be around on Instagram at AstroTwins and back next week with another episode.
Thanks for tuning in to AstroTwins Radio. If today's episode gave you an aha moment, we'd be over the moon if you left us a 5-star review. It helps fellow astrology lovers find us. And make sure to hit subscribe and follow us on iTunes and Spotify so you never miss an episode. Want the full visual experience? You can also watch the video version on our YouTube at AstroTwins-TV. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at AstroTwins and head over to astrostyle.com to read your free daily, weekly, and monthly horoscope that we write for you with love. Until next time, move with intention and let the universe meet you there.